You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. And I'm going to start today with news which will break some movement hearts and enrage others. It does both to mine. It's about Cesar Chavez, who, together with Dolores Huerta, founded the United Farm Workers movement, with union flags and an enormous movement. Huerta, who survived him, chose to publish her statement about his, to say the least, misdeeds in Ms. Magazine because she's a member of the board, and I'm reading from it accordingly. This is not the statement in totality, it's longer, but these are the relevant parts. I am nearly 96 years old, and for the last 60 years I have kept a secret because I believed that exposing the truth would hurt the movement that I have spent my entire life fighting for. I have encouraged people to always use their voice. Following the New York Times multi-year investigation into actual misconduct by Cesar Chavez, I can no longer stay silent and must share my own experience. As a young mother in the 1960s, I experienced 2 separate sexual encounters with Cesar. The first one when I was manipulated and pressured into having sex with him. And I didn't feel I could say no, because he was someone that I admired, my boss and the leader of a movement I was already devoting years of my life to. The second time I was forced against my will, and in an environment where I felt trapped. These are, by the way, very familiar feelings to women who have been assaulted. She goes on to say, I had experienced sexual abuse and sexual violence before, and I convinced myself, as we all do, that these were incidents I had to endure alone and in secret. Both sexual encounters with Cesar led to pregnancies. I chose to keep my pregnancy secret, and after the children were born, I arranged for them to be raised by other families that could give them stable lives. Over the years, she goes on, I have been fortunate to develop a deep relationship with these children, who are now close to my other children, their siblings. But even then, no one knew the full truth about how they were conceived until just a few weeks ago. I carried the secret for as long as I did because building the movement and securing farm worker rights was my life's work. The formation of a union was the only vehicle to accomplish and secure those rights, and I wasn't going to let Cesar or anyone else get in the way. She goes on, and she says, I've never identified myself as a victim, but I now understand that I am a survivor. Now, let me interpose here and say that's a huge leap right there. A survivor of violence and sexual abuse and dominating men. These were the men who saw her, she says, and other women, she says, as property or things to control. I am telling my story now because the New York Times has indicated that I was not the only one. There were other women who are coming forward, sharing that they were routinely sexually abused and assaulted by Cesar when they were girls and teenagers. The knowledge that he hurt young girls sickens me. My heart aches for everyone who has suffered alone and in silence for years. There are no words strong enough to condemn these deplorable actions that do not reflect the values of our community and our movement. And it is a statement at the end where she says, I will continue my commitment to workers as well as my commitment now to women's rights, to make sure we have a voice and that our communities are treated with dignity and given the equity they have so long been denied. I have kept this secret long enough. My silence ends here. And then, of course, it is in Spanish as well as in English. And there's a statement from the Ms. board on which she sits about her statement and the courage it took for her to make it, and the classic reasons, that she gives. I've written about my years of sexual abuse and the different reasons I made up for all the different men. And they reflect all the different reasons. You'll find yours, I'm sure, in there. So, thank you. I wish you'd said it earlier. I wish you'd been able to recognize yourself as a survivor and not a victim earlier. But better late than never. And it took great courage to do what you did today. Now, we are going on to discover a different kind of courage, which is to grow older. And what Oldster, Oldster, really means. So I'll be back with that, and with a woman who has made quite a stir in the New York Times and lots of other places about Oldster in just a moment after this brief message. Subscribe to this program on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Follow us on Twitter at WMC Live, like our Facebook page at facebook.com/WMC Live, and visit us at WMCLive.com for more information about our show and our guests.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Sari Martin, welcome to Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you are very hot these days. I tell you, you're all over the New York Times and many other places because of this amazing dream you had, I guess, according to the Times piece that you wrote about it, which is that you dreamt you had this website called Oldster, and that it was a very popular one, and you did it, and there it is, and we are here. This is fabulous. Tell me about Oldster. Tell us about it.
So, Oldster magazine explores what it means to travel through time in a human body at every phase of life. It's about getting older. It's not so much about old people as it is about getting older and all the junctures at which there are milestones that are very meaningful, maybe a little bit intimidating, maybe gratifying. And so I explore those. And it comes from my own curiosity that I've been sort of, bumping up against since I was very young. I was 10 years old when I first started thinking about what are you supposed to do at what age? And I was always out of step with my peers. And so it became this obsession of mine that I started pursuing in my mid-50s when also my body started doing things
But you hadn't expected.
yeah, well, that I knew were going to happen, but they started to really happen.
Right.
Menopause, arthritis,
Yep.
Insomnia, all kinds of things, wrinkles, gray hair, all those things. And so that's when I started to take it very seriously and knew I wanted to explore it in a magazine. And then I had that dream. I couldn't think of a name. And then I had this dream that I started a magazine called Oldster, made a joke about it on Twitter, and then realized, wait a minute, that's actually brilliant.
Yeah. And it's got how many now subscribers? I mean, it's got gazillions, yes?
Well, in the New York Times, it says I have 70,000, but the New York Times brought another 14,000 my way. So
oh my goodness.
I have 84,000 subscribers right now.
That's amazing. That's just incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is wonderful. You must be very,
satisfying.
very pleased. Yeah, you must be sort of reveling in it because it was your subconscious that dictated this, and it was right. It was excellent. God damn, this is fabulous. My women friends and I go through this all the time, and we've done it on a very small scale. But we have this sort of thing of saying, well, when we were younger, we used to talk about let's see, what how do I remember it? Yeah, when we were younger, we used to talk about uh lovers and husbands and children and so forth. And now we talk about doctors and
Mm.
and not so much husbands, not always, and sometimes children. But it is true because you're never prepared for the next stage, are you?
No, as much as you think you might be,
Right.
it comes upon you and it's like, "Oh, wow, this is the reality of this."
That's right.
Yeah, which is why I say that everyone's an oldster because whether it's 18 or 30 or 50, these are all junctures in life where big things change.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you're not ready for them necessarily. Or if you are, or if you think you are, you're not. Or if you think you're not, you are. I mean, it's quite an extraordinary process.
Yeah, it
Um,
comes with a lot of surprises.
yeah. I mean, I cannot believe my age. I can't. Yeah, I'm now actually 85 years old, and
Well, congratulations.
I don't know how the hell I got here. I mean, last week when I woke up and turned over, I just, I was like 58. I mean, I don't know what the hell happened. It's not a matter of regret. It's more a matter of awe.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, how did that's fascinating, but what is it? You know,
It
um,
is fascinating. Aging is fascinating. We live through so many changes within our bodies and our minds,
women
and our
especially.
yeah, women especially, and also our culture.
Yep.
We live through all these different movements and time periods, and I mean, yeah, awe is a really good word for it. Sometimes there are surprises that are less welcome than others.
Oh,
Like for me, arthritis has been a
absolutely.
real
I'm
bear of an issue to deal with.
I'm with you on that.
I'm living with chronic pain, and I'm only 60. How am I going to feel at 70 and 80 if I'm in this much pain now?
Right.
But yeah, it's really fascinating to me. It's endlessly fascinating, which is good because I want to keep doing this for the rest of my life.
Oh, it's so wonderful that you found this and it found you. I mean, that in itself is such a reward for living, and living well. And I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I have it with arthritis. So there's a particular shoulder that hates me, and is attached to my body, and so
Yeah.
therefore, and I have Parkinson's disease,
Oh,
which is it stops you up in more ways than one. Although I've been very fortunate because it hardly impacted me for the first quite a few years. I've had it for 17 years.
wow. That's
And
amazing.
yeah, and it hasn't impacted me that much, but in the last couple of years, it has come home to stay. I had brain surgery, and that was a trip, let me tell you.
Mm,
And so that if I'm sitting at my desk, if I'm sitting down, or doing this interview or whatever, um, I'm fine. I'm perfectly normal. I'm not, we would never know there was anything wrong with me. It's when I try to stand up,
uh,
that I go sideways and upside down. And they haven't yet discovered how to deal with that. But it's still not. Let me put it this way: it's not intolerable. It's you can tolerate more things than you think you can.
mm,
I have discovered, um, and um, and the human capacity for expansion of the self is quite remarkable.
yeah.
And I've known other people who are far worse off than I am. So I can't complain. And as long as I can still write, those of us who can write, we got to cherish that and keep that up.
Yeah.
So, and you are in touch with women now all over the world, yes?
Women and men.
And men, all right, of course.
Oldster is for all genders. And
I bet you have
yeah.
more women than men, though. I bet, don't you
Oh,
think?
I think it's more women than men, but I do have men and I feature men. Um,
Mm,
I I like to have people of different genders, people of different ages
mm-hmm,
learning from each other. I didn't
mm,
want a silo in which women are only talking to women.
mm.
If we want men to really understand what it means to be a woman going through menopause or postmenopause, we have to include the men. And if we want
Of
women
course.
to understand what aging does to men, to their minds, to their bodies, we have to include everybody, and the
Yeah.
same with that's part of why Oldster is somewhat age agnostic, because I want intergenerational conversation about what's happening to us. I want the older people to understand the pressures on 30 somethings. I want 30
Right.
somethings to understand what people in their 80s, 70s are dealing with, and I want them all to be kind of in conversation with each other. So that's why
Mm.
Oldster is kind of expansively inclusive.
Mm. That's wonderful. It's wonderful. And you're going to do a book, obviously, I think.
My agent has gone out in the last few days with a proposal for an Oldster anthology. Yes.
Oh, how fantastic. Oh, that's wonderful. That's just wonderful. I've been thinking of Ulsters. Ulsters I haven't loved and known. And of course, primary comes to mind, Ursula Le Guin, who died a few years ago, and
Yes.
who I missed tremendously. She was my she was my classic, real, you know, maven. I mean, she was the person who taught me how to be old, or ways of being
Huh.
old,
Hmm.
she and Toni Morrison, and
Mm.
they were a hell of a pair. And they were both very literary, obviously, and wonderfully, brilliantly so. And so we used to have these wonderful conversations about writing, and they would be they would range from the funky, "I can't write anything. I can't write today. I don't know what's
Ah,
wrong with me," and "I'm smoking again. I can't believe it. I can't. I'm so depressed." Those kind of
yeah.
conversations, all the way straight up into capital M, meaningful, and really serious, craft conversations, and they were so valuable, and I miss them so acutely.
Mhm.
But I think we all have those two happen to be well known and happen to be great writers, but I think we all have versions of that, and
Yes, yes.
where they are the women or the men, who teach you how to age, or
They
who
sort of
teach.
model it. They
Yes.
model the good aging, like the
Hmm.
embracing it and also acknowledging the difficulty. Yeah, I think that's
Exactly.
yeah,
And
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 persevering.
and your website, or your Substack, um, doesn't doesn't censor people, and doesn't insist that they be cheerful, which is a very good, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't wanna be toxically positive. I do wanna be empowering. I want to show the positive sides of aging that our culture denies,
mhm,
but I also want people to be honest about the challenges, and it's one of the questions in the Oldster questionnaire, which is a recurring weekly feature.
mm,
Um, I ask, "What's difficult about being your age?" And everyone answers that question
mm,
because there are difficulties. You are succumbing to gravity and time, factors we have no control over.
right.
And even if you have the most positive attitude and you remain physically and emotionally healthy, you're still dealing with, a body that is declining.
That's right. And tells you that, in subtle and not so subtle ways.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
every time you think you're not,
I
suddenly, a tooth falls out or,
I
or
know.
you sprain
I
something and
know.
it doesn't heal for 2 months.
Exactly, and you say, "What the hell?
Yeah.
That used to," and there's a terrible, well, not, I don't know if it's terrible, but it's difficult, dimension where you're comparing yourself to what was,
Yeah, yeah.
which you wanna, I think, get away from as fast as your little fat legs can carry you, but I don't know that for sure. I mean, maybe you were supposed to embrace it, I don't know.
You know
Um,
what's weird? I'm gonna tell you something weird that's gonna make me sound vain, but I feel like
no.
I get more attractive as I get older.
Oh,
And
great.
like I like my looks better now. I feel that among 60-year-olds, I might rank higher in attractiveness than I did among 25-year-olds
I'm
or
sure you do.
30-year-olds.
I'm positive you do. You certainly
And
are.
my mother is the same. My mother at 85 is just stunning. People meet her and they say, "Oh my God, your mom is hot."
Oh, wow.
And it's
Okay.
this weird thing where I like my looks so much better now than I ever have in my life, and I'm 60.
Well, no, it's you grew into yourself, my dear.
Yeah, I think that might be it.
I mean, and think what you have to look forward to. You're gonna look more like her as you age, and
Yeah,
I mean, this is all very good.
yeah.
Well, I in my close circle of friends whom I meet with regularly, and we have for years. We used to work together, and we still do. So I have 4 women. Um, but in that circle of friends, there's a loyalty and a frame of reference that is so valuable that I can understand why people tend to cluster with their own age.
Mm,
You know, for the first time, I can understand. I never used to be able to understand it. And I used to think, well, why do old people stay
mm,
with old people, and why do young people cluster with younger people? But it's clear there really is a frame of reference,
mm,
and as long as you don't have to stay within it, you don't have to be, you know, a prisoner to it. But it is helpful. It is helpful as a
mhm. Yeah, I can
um,
see that. But I also have friends of all ages, and I really enjoy
yes,
that.
yes, I do too. Yeah, that's right. Um, Younger friends and children as well. And because I think children are the other side of this. I mean, children are an aspect that is um, often overlooked in our rush to adulthood. We have a as young people, we have a rush to being old enough. I was a precocious child, and so there was definitely in my case that rush. And yet once I was there, um, I was in a rush for the next phase, and the next, and the next, and the next. So at some point, I'm going to surprise myself by waking up dead, and then I'll have to really reevaluate. So, um, but it's an interesting um, switcheroo that you pull on yourself. I think,
Yeah.
um, because you don't necessarily embrace every aspect of it, and you don't necessarily hate every aspect of it. Each aspect is a mixed bag.
Yes. It's all very variable.
Mhm. Mm. This is just incredible that you've done this. And the reaction from people has clearly been, what did you say, 800? What, say again the number?
84,000
84.
subscribers.
My God.
Most of them are free. Only a small fraction are paid, but enough that I can do this for a living.
Oh, this
Um,
is so great. This is
yeah.
just so wonderful. Oh, God. Well, I think that the kind of work that you're doing, which you literally slid into. I wouldn't say fell, but you slid in very, very well greased, and very, very easily, very, very naturally almost. That is very valuable to us
Thank
all.
you.
You
Thank you.
know,
I mean, it's also though, it's an extension of the work I've been doing for years.
you were a writer, yes, of course.
A writer, editor, and teacher of
Mm-hmm.
writing. I've worked at newspapers, magazines, websites,
Mm,
digital media. I worked at MTV News. I, I have been a writer, editor for years, for 40 years,
mm.
literally since I started. And so I was taking the skills and sensibilities that I had already honed
Developed.
and
Yeah.
bringing them to this, which I think is part of why it's as successful as it is.
Oh, I'm sure.
I've had 2 personal essays that I commissioned and edited, that got notable mention in the Best American Essays.
Ah.
Um, I've been recognized in a lot of ways, and this is because I have been doing this work for literally 40 years.
Mhm.
So it's funny, ever since the New York Times piece ran on March 3rd, some people who don't know me, who just discovered me, see me as this quote unquote overnight success. And I'm like, no,
One of
I've
the
been,
one of those
you know,
overnight successes that took 11 years or 12 or 15.
40,
40.
40,
Yeah,
you know.
40. Hell, yeah. Yeah.
So, so I'm practicing my profession on
Mm-hmm.
Substack is what
And
I'm doing. I'm creating magazines and practicing my profession that I've been doing for 4 decades.
mm,
And so I've found a subject that really resonates. I've found a kind of approach to that subject that really resonates, that is combined with my skills and experience as a writer and editor.
mm, this is just lovely. One of the things that I'm grappling with, that I'm sure you must be coming up with quite a bit in terms of opening your doors, as it were, to the world, um, is that I never, being political, I certainly never expected to spend my 30s, my 80s, Freudian slip, um, to spend my 80s organizing against Trump and be, I
Mm.
mean, and with him in office. So that's very depressing to
Oh
me,
yeah,
and it is depressing as well because um, the scientists tell us that we have about, basically 5 to 10 years before it's too late to turn the planet around. So you can, it's not just a localized uh, depression in that sense. It is a real, everybody's feeling a tremendous angst and I mean, we just look at the world.
yeah, it's
So
planetary.
yeah, it is really pretty frightening. So there's that, and I, I can think that there must be a way in which just being in touch with other people who are going through similar, not the same, but similar things would be comforting in that circumstance. Um,
Definitely. I mean, Oldster is really a community, and people have gotten to know each other in the comments on the
mm,
posts, and there's a kindness, and it's a really wonderful community of so many people who are very supportive of one another and learning from one another and sharing with one another. People have made friends outside of Oldster. um, it is really nice to have other people to compare notes with and to commiserate with and to celebrate with. Um, but in terms of the difficulties that you're talking about,
mm,
politically and in terms of climate change, it must be even harder for your generation. I
yep.
mean, your generation more than mine really fought to change the world
Yeah.
and had a lot of success moving at least American culture in a more tolerant and thoughtful direction. And then all of a sudden there's this huge reversal, which for me is really hard. But I'm trying to imagine
It's
being
crushing.
part of the first counterculture
Yep.
group,
You're right. You're
you know,
absolutely on target. You're
have
right.
to witness this, yeah, and
Yeah,
live
it's
through
it's 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 very, very, very painful. And it's not that we were naive. We didn't think it'd be, happen overnight. We knew there'd be problems. But we didn't think that we'd be at this level of backpedaling and rushing backwards. Um, when I was in my 80s, it never occurred to me. I thought, well, we won't have everything, but we'll certainly have blah blah blah, blah and this and this and this, and we'll be at a just different level, a different state, a different, and it is very difficult. So I keep, and I have a podcast, of course, and uh, and my listeners are wonderful. They're sort of people who listen with a pencil poised in their hand, ready to write letters, and 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 we're in 110 countries, and so we're doing quite nicely. Thank you very much.
it.
But it
Nice.
but it but it is a strange feeling that sometimes comes over me of not hopelessness, but something close to it. Because I don't see a way to get out of this, and maybe
Yeah.
I will reach in any and all directions because I'm nothing if not creative. and and I think that Ulster is probably one of them.
Oh,
I think that I think that's an amazing and
thank you.
and creative.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it is. It really is. So, thank you very much, and thank you for doing this. Thank you for sleeping. Thank you for dreaming. And thank you for writing goodbye to all that, which reminds me of my own piece. And so, but what
Oh,
what is your goodbye to all that?
oh, mine is an essay anthology by
Ah,
30 authors,
ah,
about loving and leaving New York City.
oh. Where'd you
It
go?
was Yeah, it was originally published in 2013, and then I reissued it in 2021 because it did so well. Um, so yeah, I like to collect voices around a subject I'm curious about.
That makes two of us. I have done the sisterhood anthologies. Sisterhood is powerful, and sisterhood is global, and sisterhood is forever, and sisterhood goes on ad nauseum. So, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, I love to collect voices around a subject that I'm curious about, and that's what I did with Goodbye to All That, and that's what I'm doing with Oldster.
Mm, it's just brilliant. It's brilliant. Well, I shall sign up for it and be
Thank you.
part of your crew, and I thank you for everything that you've been doing and for doing more in the future.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was great meeting you and chatting.
We have to take a short break here, but I will return in just a moment, so don't go away. The Women's Media Center, founded in 2005 by Jane Fonda, Gloria Steinem, and myself, is a progressive, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization working to make women visible and powerful in media. You can learn more about the WMC at womensmediacenter.com.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Using disaster positively. Those are fighting words. While the great and not so great powers are tripping over themselves and each other, trying to figure out what in hell to do when the Strait of Hormuz is closed and there's less and less oil all around the world because of the war on Iran that Trump decided to wage arbitrarily and so forth. While this is happening, I got to thinking about various methods of using this catastrophic market disaster positively. And what do you know? Many countries are cutting energy use, which of course they previously claimed was simply unthinkable. But guess what now? You see, they can't very well not do so, since last Tuesday was one of the world's largest oil and gas export terminals, located in the United Arab Emirates, caught on fire after a drone attack. Then a separate drone strike sent a UAE oil and gas field ablaze on Monday. So countries are cutting energy use. They said it was impossible. They wouldn't do it for health or sanity or the survival of people or animals or the planet itself. But war? Oh, well, that's another matter. That is serious. That's boy stuff. The European Union, which imports 90% of its oil and 80% of its natural gas, is trying to ease energy prices by making more carbon emissions permits available. And Denmark's energy minister asked its citizens to please just avoid driving. To reduce demand, Sri Lanka has declared every Wednesday a holiday for public officials. The official kind of official. Myanmar is limiting the use of private vehicles, allowing drivers to use them every other day. Bangladeshi colleges have canceled classes. Local governments in the Philippines have shifted into 4-day work weeks. These are all unthinkable things they couldn't do. Rising fuel prices and gasoline prices in the United States have risen 27% since the war's start, and jumping to an average of nearly 3.79 cents a gallon. And diesel, wait for it, soared above $5 for the second time ever on Tuesday. Delta's chief executive said the company's jet fuel costs had doubled since the start of the quarter, and the airline has increased fares when it's in doubt at all, hand it over to the consumer. Make the consumer pay. Even more strikingly, water supplies are at risk. Desalination plants provide a large proportion of drinking water to some of the Persian Gulf nations, and 2 plants have been damaged in military operations, so experts worry that they could face other, additional, still to come, indirect threats. Some plants draw water from the sea, raising the prospect that oil spills contaminate pipes or clogged filters, and so forth and so on. The Chinese, way back in Confucius's day, used to point out regularly that crisis and opportunity were different words for the same thing. Little lessons that ancient civilizations, having survived much, have learned and could pass on if we were listening. And that's our show for this week. You can follow me on social media at The Robin Morgan. You can check out my blog at robinmorgan.net, and you can find my new novel, Parallax, and my just-out new book of poems, Harvesting Darkness, wherever books are sold. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Views expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. Executive producer, as well as founding and sustaining sponsor, Regina K. Scully. WMC president and co-executive producer for this program, Julie Burton. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us. Join us next time on Women's Media Center Live.